This is again the Build-A-Flower number 2, B187 by Cherry Lynn, and you cut 15 of the petals that are the largest on the die. Okay, so I have already cut them and I've already just colored them, most of them. I did want to show you a couple things. Number one, when you get the die, it comes with a little circle, a little hole on the bottom of it. Mike needed that the way he designs the flower, the owner of Cherry Lynn, but we don't use that in our flower making, so I just always trim off the bottom of each one of those because it's a little bit easier to adhere on the petal. So after you have inked all of them, it's just a quick thing to do. You know, some of these things are fun just to set if you're watching TV, to do at night. If you have them all cut, you can set and condition them at night and color them at night. You'll notice I usually go around with red fingers, or whatever color I guess we're using. So now they're all colored. The next thing we do is then condition them. And so you start on one side, and all you're doing here is just loosening the fibers to make them workable. Go one side, flip it over, and then do the other side. And with this flower that we're doing, all of the flowers but the top layer is cupped down. Okay, so there's one. By the way, I forgot to mention earlier, the black mat that I'm using is a mat that I carry in the shop. It's 8.5 by 11, and it's a lot thicker than a lot of your mats that we have used in the past. And Selma and I both just love it. One side is kind of a hard surface, the other one is kind of spongy, and I use the harder surface because then I can do my gluing on there as well. So you just, and you leave two that are totally, that you don't do anything with. You simply lay those aside because those are going to be the center of your flowers, and we have to do those a little bit differently. So you're doing 15 petals like this, and then you have 2 petals that you don't do anything with. And after cutting, you cut 18, so you've always got one extra petal that you can save for later, or if you mess up something, you've got an extra one. So there, all of our petals now are cupped. You do the same thing with the stamen, and the stamen is what you're going to glue these petals onto. So you just cup them all, cup them up. You need 3 stamens for this particular flower. Then after you have that part done that we just did, then you use the largest stylus and you go around the edge, and this just gives it, you're kind of crimping it, you're kind of shaping it a little bit more. And I've done most of these, so we won't take time to do a lot of them. And I even like it when it, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but when it kind of pleats over itself, and just every petal, if you look at a flower, every petal is totally different. So I've added the ultimate glue on my craft mat. By the way, if you aren't using a craft mat, it is one of the best tools that you can use in any of your crafting. Nothing sticks to it. The only thing you can't do is cut on it, because you would cut it. But I carry one that is kind of a self-adhesive on the back by Scorpal, and you can't move it. I mean, you're not going to move it when you're working with it. So, and then like the glue, if I left some dry over the weekend, and it just, I just was able to take a damp rag and get it right off of there. So what you do then is, remember, we're going to go down with the petals on this. I'm going to go down on the bottom 2 layers. So when you put your glue in, keep that in mind. You pick up your snowflake and you just add it right to the middle there. And I like to get mine as close in the middle as I possibly can. Go all the way around it. And it's wet, going to be wet first, but it dries pretty quickly. This glue is really good for that. And it holds very, very well. So you do all 5 layers, or I mean all 5 petals. And then you let it dry for a little bit. We'll be able to shape this now a little bit more once it dries a little bit. Okay, I have assembled all of the layers for the flower to save time for the video. Then I wanted to show you your next step. Using the white tool from the tool kit, using the long narrow end, the pointer end, if you just poke down into the flower, after you've let this dry for, probably 10 minutes, I would say, what we let it dry here. And you can just keep poking it down. And then I kind of help it with my fingers a little bit to bring it up. And the same thing then with this one. Just poke it down. The trick is getting it off of the, back off, so you don't unassemble it because it is still wet. Then you can the nice thing about it, after it dries a little bit, you can really arrange it so that you can put it where you want to. So now I'm going to put this layer on top of this layer, and I'm going to alternate so that the petals are not on top of each other. And then you can really poke down in it. Okay, and then the next layer, and this one is the top layer, and you'll notice that these petals are all going down, these petals are coming up, and then you just simply poke down in it just like I was doing, and then holding the pointed end into it, then you cup it so that you want this to be as cupped as much as you possibly can get it. Can you see that, how that's cupped? And then it's all wet, still a little wet, not much, but still a little wet. And then you poke it down and you have your flower. Now I'm going to wait a little bit after it dries a little bit, then you can kind of pull those around and form them right where you want them. But isn't that looking pretty? I've got one kind of on top of each other, so I'll just scoot it around a little bit. There we go. Okay, so that is the basis of your flower right there. Now the next thing we need to do is we're going to build the inside. This is not hard, but it's a little trickier. And you can use the tweezers from the toolkit. This works just fine. I'm going to use the round needle nose pliers. It's just because I'm used to doing so. You start with your 2 petals that you have not done anything with other than color, and you grab it down towards the end, as far down as you can go, with your point side up, and then you just wrap it around the pliers, and you can see how that point is sticking up some. And then I just get a little bit of glue on the edges of the petal. Oops, I dropped it. So we'll start right there. Put a little bit of glue. You don't want to get too much, but you got to have enough to hold it. And then I kind of slip out my pliers and hold it that way. And I kind of let that dry a little bit. Then the next one. I take the same petal, but I put the point side down, grab it down as low as you can, put a little bit of glue on the edges of it, and I lay that aside for a minute. Grab this one, and you're going to bring the top of the petal just a little higher than the one that you just did. So I open my pliers, grab both of them like that, and wrap this around. Catching it there. And you don't want it real tight, because after this dries just a little bit, you're going to bend the top part of it out to shape it just a little bit further. Does that make sense? I hope it does. It's kind of hard to show it to you and do it at the same time. So as you see, I let my pliers go and I grabbed all of it then. And then after this dries just a few minutes, a few seconds actually, then I'm going to bend these out some. And you can open it up as much as you'd like. Some of them I get opened well, you know, quite far, and some are pretty tight. And like I said, every flower that you make is totally different. Then you need to, after that's formed, you need to kind of measure it, and you cut off this bottom, because this is what's going to go down then in the center of your flower. I stick it in my glue, get quite a bit of glue on that, and that goes right in the center. And we have our flower. So I know that you can do this, and I know many of you are doing it, and it's just so rewarding to be able to make your own flower, make it the colors you want, the shape you want, and be able to use it for your projects. I don't have one right here with me, but when you want to mail a card with a flower on like this, I have some of the clear boxes that is very nice to put your card in so that your flowers and so forth that does not get smashed. So thanks again. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact myself or Selma, and we appreciate any comments that you might have. Bye.